Okay, this is part 2 of the board comparison. We have the MBS Agent right here and the Ecomobl Telum. And yesterday I filmed the first part of the comparison video, so came up with some thoughts and ideas that I wanted to include. So we're doing another video, and to start off, I wanted to run the motors so you guys can actually hear what the motors sound like. So here's the MBS Agent. Brakes work well. Here's the Ecomobl Telum. Brakes work pretty good. So that kind of covers just how the motors sound. I've had this board for over 3 years. I've put a little over 300 miles on that board. So my MBS is my new board. I've had it for about 7 months, and I have approximately 100 miles, just a little under 100 miles on that board. So, I wanted to talk about the upgrades. And, with the MBS Agent, there's a lot of upgrades. I got the base model, which is the Air, two-wheel drive, with the small tires, small hubs, but you can switch out wider hubs, bigger tires, wider tires. There's a lot of options available. You could even adapt and buy additional motors and components to make this a four-wheel drive board. However, it would require the upgraded battery. This only has one port on this small battery for two-wheel drive. So but all the other components are all compatible. So, which is really nice and convenient, for upgrades. On the Ecomobl, the upgrades come with the board. I bought the first generation, so we're gonna see solid tires that come on the first generation Ecomobl. Now it comes with pneumatics. They've upgraded the motors, are a little more powerful, and also have an auto shut off before overheating. So that's pretty much some of the differences. I don't think you could just easily adapt as many components and convert this to four-wheel drive as simple as the MBS board. It would probably require some additional wiring and stuff like that. So I also wanted to talk about the braking system. The MBS Agent, its brakes work, I would say at least 50% better than the Ecomobl brakes. Ecomobl has, I believe, 4 brake settings, and there's 9 different settings for the MBS Agent. So far superior on the braking capability, which really is important because braking, on really extreme terrain is a major safety issue. So just definitely wanted to highlight that. So the weight of the board, the Ecomobl weighs about 5 pounds less than the MBS Agent. So on the weight wise, that's an advantage on Ecomobl. A lighter board tends to be a little more maneuverable and agile. But when you're dealing with 40 to 50 pounds, a, a tenth of the weight isn't, a huge amount, but I definitely just wanted to mention that. So the some of the things really that I didn't like on the Ecomobl the Ecomobl Telum, sorry, is all the hardware that bolts the battery frame to the deck has the nuts sticking out at the bottom. And, I tend to ride terrain where I want the bottom of the board as smooth as a profile as possible, so it doesn't hang up on the top of rollers, log stumps, kickers, all kinds of obstacles. So I actually had to reverse the hardware, so it put the flat head on the bottom. I have these mounted right now, mostly for stability for when I ran the motors. But when I did flip the hardware, which was simple and easy to do, it made it more difficult to remove the battery from the track. So it added a few extra hardware steps to remove. But since I don't have a spare battery, not an issue. But I definitely wanted to mention that because the hardware, I feel, is not as good as the MBS agent. The hardware, there's nothing protruding on the bottom whatsoever, so it's very clean and smooth. All the fasteners have inserts, so they don't penetrate. There's no nuts or washers, sticking out at the bottom edge. So, just the hardware in general is a big upgrade. One of the other things, I had mentioned that the brackets were weak that held, this electronic speed control onto the deck. Part of that is they used the same fasteners that bolt the truck to the deck, extend and would go through the bracket that holds the ESC. So that, I didn't like that at all. Actually, the MBS has separate holes that mount the speed control onto the deck, so that when you take the truck off, that doesn't impact the hardware at all. So there's separate holes, separate bolts that mount those components on. So just another difference. Wanted to mention that. You see, I put some of this foam padding, really, and some plastic tie wraps to just kind of keep this in place, since getting a replacement bracket was difficult. I also have used, and this foam was part of the packing material. I saved it, recycled the box, but I saved some of the foam pieces, and actually on the MBS agent, underneath the battery, you really can't see it from this view, but I used some of that foam, and actually, here's a thick piece. It's just the packing foam. So sometimes, it comes in different thicknesses depending on the components that it protects during shipping. So I used some of this underneath the battery, really to take out some of the vibration. Now, these brackets are adjustable, and you turn them and it tightens or loosens them, but it was either, too tight and I couldn't cinch them in, or it was just loose enough that it would rattle. So by putting some foam compressed underneath the bracket, actually kind of had to cut it out. There's a middle channel that I didn't have the foam on, but it really just made it much more secure. doesn't rattle, and was a simple little fix. Used some double-sided tape, stuck that in place, mounted the battery. Just the vibration and the sound and noise of it just kind of bothered me. So definitely wanted to mention the little things. The boards were designed both very well, and I wanted to mention and talk about that a little bit. I think most people don't know or don't realize that the Ecomobl boards are German engineered. So when I first was researching the board, there was some really old videos that Ecomobl had on their website, and they showed the designer, the founder of the company, was really talking through the motors and the engineering involved and some how-to stuff. So I actually called their 800 number, and he picked up the phone when I bought my first Ecomobl ET. He was really helpful, talked to me about, the battery maintenance and maybe the need for an extra remote, and just, he just gave me some real personal service. I'm not sure if I don't believe he's involved in the company anymore. But really it was his design and, innovation that came up with the motor design and a lot of the functions on the board. So I just wanted to share that. I haven't researched some of those old videos, but the website's been revamped since that was like 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago. But I think just some information probably a lot of people aren't aware of. Now, on the design of the MBS agent, I know Jason and Joel Lee have worked on the project for about 3 years and really put a lot of thought into the design and function of their electric mountain board. So they really considered, riders like myself, the needs and the wishes that we would, that we would want. Really experienced mountain boarders, what they would want from an electric version, and which I'm really thankful. The ease of use, just being able to charge it, turn it on, and ride it. Something simple that you don't have to program, simple steps to function, the speeds and the braking and everything, is ideal. Also low maintenance. I believe the gear drive and the motors, and everything is well thought out, and definitely wanted to mention that. Oh, on a final note, the chargers, which I used both of them this morning. The Ecomobl charger it's been working, still works, for 3 years now. But it's a plastic encasing, pretty small. Only has one little light indicator. I'm really impressed with the MBS charger. Much sturdier aluminum housing charger, and it's got 3 different lighting indicators. Just overall a much better charging device. So when we're looking at the differences cost-wise, between $1,600 and $2,700, when you consider the differences of the remotes and the chargers, the batteries, motors, all of that, then of course the power, speed, and performance the adjustability, all those things, it starts to really even out that significant, $1,000, a little over $1,000 price difference. So just kind of wanted to end it on that note, but hope this information's helpful, and get out there, get aboard, and go ride. Thank you.